There are moments in life when we face storms so fierce that we wonder if we'll ever make it through. The winds of adversity blow, the waves of trouble crash against us, and everything in us wants to give up. But let me encourage you today. This storm is not your final destination. What you're facing right now is not the end of your story. God is about to turn your storm into victory. It's easy to feel discouraged when we're in the middle of a storm. We pray, but the situation doesn't seem to change. We believe, but the struggle continues. We try to move forward, but obstacles keep blocking the way. It's in these moments that we must remember God is still in control. The disciples found themselves in a storm like this in Mark 4:35 through 41. They were in a boat with Jesus when a furious storm arose. The waves were so high and the wind was so strong that they thought they were going to drown. But where was Jesus? Asleep in the boat. That tells us something powerful. The storm didn't worry Jesus, so it shouldn't worry us. When the disciples woke him up, he simply said, "Peace, be still," and the storm calmed instantly. Storms in life can feel overwhelming. When you're in the middle of one, it's easy to believe that it will never end. The waves of trouble crash over you. The winds of uncertainty try to knock you down, and the darkness makes it hard to see the way forward. But here's the truth. Every storm has an expiration date. No matter how strong the winds may be, they won't last forever. No matter how high the waves rise, they will eventually settle. The difficulties you're facing today are only temporary because God has already set the end date for your storm. Think about a natural storm. When dark clouds roll in, people take shelter, knowing that the rain may pour and the wind may howl, but eventually the storm will pass. No storm lasts forever. The same is true for the storms of life. They may be intense, they may last longer than you expected, but they are not permanent. God is still in control, and He has already scheduled the day when your breakthrough will come. In Mark 4:35 to 41, the disciples found themselves in a violent storm while sailing across the Sea of Galilee. The wind was raging, the waves were crashing into the boat, and they thought they were going to drown. But where was Jesus? He was asleep in the boat. That tells us something powerful. The storm didn't worry Jesus, so it shouldn't worry us. When they woke him up, he simply said, "Peace, be still," and the storm stopped instantly. Right now, you might be facing a storm in your health, in your finances, or in your relationships. You've done everything you know to do, but nothing seems to change. Can I tell you, just like Jesus calmed the storm for the disciples, He will calm the storm in your life. The wind may be strong, the rain may be heavy, but God is still in control. Your storm has an expiration date. Look at Joseph. He went through a storm of betrayal, being sold into slavery by his own brothers. He faced false accusations, imprisonment, and years of hardship. It looked like his life was stuck in the storm forever. But what Joseph didn't know was that God had already marked the day when the storm would end. In one moment, he was brought out of prison and elevated to the palace. Look at Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his health, and even his family. The storm was fierce, but it wasn't permanent. When the storm passed, God restored double what Job had lost. Look at David. He was anointed as king, but before he could take the throne, he faced a storm of trials. He was hunted by Saul, forced to live in caves, and had to fight battle after battle. But the storm didn't last forever. In the right time, God fulfilled His promise and made him king. Maybe you've been in a storm for a long time. You're tired, you're frustrated, and you're wondering when it will end. Let this be your reminder. God has already scheduled the day of your breakthrough. You may not see it yet, but it's on the way. In 2 Corinthians 4:17, the Bible says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Notice the word momentary. That means the trouble is temporary, but God's blessings are permanent. So what do you do while you're waiting for the storm to pass? Stay in faith. Don't let fear take over. The same God who brought you through past struggles will bring you through this one. Speak victory. Declare, "This storm is temporary. My breakthrough is coming. God is fighting for me." Keep moving forward. Don't get stuck in the storm. Keep believing, keep trusting, and keep praising. The storm you're in right now is not the end of your story. Your expiration date is coming. The sickness will be healed. The financial struggle will be lifted. The broken relationship will be restored. So, don't give up. The storm may be fierce, but it's only temporary. Keep holding on because your victory is on its way. There are moments in life when things don't go as planned. You pray, you believe, you do everything right, yet the door closes, the opportunity slips away, or the situation turns against you. It's easy to feel like you've been set back, like life has pushed you in the wrong direction. But what if I told you that the very thing that looks like a setback is actually a setup for something greater? What if what feels like a delay is actually God's divine positioning for your breakthrough? God never allows a difficulty without a purpose. If something is being taken away, if something is not working out the way you hoped, don't be discouraged. God is setting you up for something better. What you see as a loss, God sees as a transition. What you think is a disappointment, God sees as preparation for something greater. Think about Joseph. He had a dream that he would be a great leader, yet everything in his life seemed to go in the opposite direction. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and thrown into prison. That looked like a massive setback. But what Joseph didn't realize was that every difficulty was a step toward his destiny. If he had never been sold into slavery, he wouldn't have ended up in Egypt. If he had never been falsely accused, he wouldn't have been placed in the prison where he met the man who would connect him to Pharaoh. Every step of his struggle was a setup for him to be promoted to second in command over all of Egypt. What looked like a series of disappointments was really a divine setup. The same is true for you. God knows how to take what was meant for harm and use it for your good. Look at Moses. He tried to help the Israelites by his own strength, but he ended up running for his life into the desert. For 40 years, he thought he had missed his destiny. But that season in the desert was not a waste. It was a setup. God was preparing him to lead an entire nation to freedom. Look at David. He was anointed as the future king, but before he could step into the throne, he spent years running from Saul, hiding in caves and facing opposition. It looked like everything was working against him, but God was using that season to develop him, to strengthen him, to prepare him for the throne. What seemed like a setback was actually the training ground for his destiny. Maybe today, you're facing something that feels like a major setback. You lost the job, the relationship ended, the business deal fell through. It's tempting to think that everything is falling apart, but can I encourage you, you are not falling apart. You are being set up for something greater. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. That means that even when things don't go the way you planned, God is still working behind the scenes. So what should you do when it looks like you've been set back? Stay in faith. Don't get discouraged by what you see. What looks like a loss is actually a setup for gain. Trust God's plan. He knows what He's doing. If He allowed it, He has a greater purpose behind it. Keep moving forward. Don't let the disappointment stop you. Keep believing, keep preparing, keep expecting that God is about to do something amazing. Just like Joseph, just like Moses, just like David, your story is not over. The setback is just the setup for something bigger than you can imagine. God is about to open new doors, bring the right opportunities, and take you further than you ever dreamed. What was meant to hold you back is actually positioning you for greater blessings. Your setup is leading to a breakthrough. Life is a way of bringing storms, unexpected challenges, disappointments, and struggles that shake our faith. The winds of adversity blow, the waves of difficulty rise, and it feels like everything is out of control. But here's the good news. God is in control of the storm. The storm may be powerful, but our God is more powerful. The winds may be strong, but He is stronger. Nothing you're facing right now is beyond His power. In Mark 4:35-41, the disciples were in a boat with Jesus when a fierce storm arose. The wind was howling, the waves were crashing, and the boat was filling with water. The disciples panicked, thinking they were going to drown. But where was Jesus? He was asleep in the boat. They woke Him up, crying out, "Teacher, don't you care that we are perishing?" Jesus stood up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Peace, be still." Instantly, the storm stopped and everything became calm. That tells us something powerful. Just because there's a storm doesn't mean God is absent. Just because the situation looks out of control doesn't mean God has lost control. Jesus was right there with them the entire time. And the same is true for you. God is with you in your storm. Maybe right now you're facing a storm in your health, in your finances, in your family. The enemy is whispering that it's over, that you won't make it, that the storm is too strong. But remember this, if God allowed the storm, He has a plan to bring you through it. Look at Job. He faced one of the worst storms imaginable. He lost everything in a single moment. His wealth, his health, even his family were taken from him. But God was still in control. In the end, God restored Job with twice as much as he had before. Look at Daniel. Thrown into the lion's den, it seemed like his story was over. But God was in control of that storm. He shut the mouths of the lions, and Daniel came out without a scratch. Look at Paul and Silas, locked in a prison cell, falsely accused, beaten and chained. It seemed like their situation was hopeless, but God was in control. At midnight, as they began to praise, an earthquake shook the prison. The doors flew open and their chains fell off. Maybe you're in a midnight hour right now. Maybe the storm seems bigger than you, but don't panic. God is in control. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." That means even in the chaos, even in the uncertainty, even when things don't make sense, you can trust that God is still working. So what should you do when you're in the middle of a storm? Don't let fear take over. Fear makes the storm seem bigger than it is. Instead, remind yourself that the God who controls the universe is still in control of your life. Keep your faith strong. Speak victory over your situation. Say, this storm will not defeat me. My God is bigger. My breakthrough is coming. Stay in peace. If Jesus could sleep in the storm, that means you can have peace in yours. The storm is temporary, but God's promises are permanent. The same God who calmed the sea for the disciples will calm the storm in your life. The same God who delivered Job, Daniel, and Paul will deliver you. This storm is not your final destination. It is simply part of your journey. So take a deep breath, stand in faith, trust that God is in control and your breakthrough is on its way. Storms come to everyone, unexpected trials, setbacks, and challenges that shake our confidence and test our faith. When life hits hard, it's easy to get discouraged, to wonder if things will ever turn around. But here's the truth. Your faith in the storm is the key to your breakthrough. The way you respond in the middle of the difficulty determines how you come out on the other side. Anyone can have faith when things are going well, when the skies are clear, when everything is going their way. But real faith is proven in the storm. It's easy to trust God when doors are opening, when prayers are being answered, when the path is smooth, but when the winds of adversity blow, when the situation looks impossible, when nothing is changing, that's when your faith is tested. And that's when your faith matters most. In Matthew 14:22 through 33, the disciples were in a boat caught in a raging storm. They were terrified, thinking they wouldn't survive. Then they saw Jesus walking on the water toward them. Peter, filled with faith, said, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." Peter stepped out of the boat and actually walked on the water. But the moment he took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the storm, he began to sink. That's a lesson for all of us. If you focus on the storm, you'll be overwhelmed. But if you focus on Jesus, you'll walk above the storm. Maybe you're facing a storm in your health, in your finances, in your relationships. The enemy wants you to panic, to give up, to believe that it's over. But God is saying, keep your eyes on me. Keep walking by faith. Don't let the storm intimidate you. Look at Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his health, even his family. But he refused to let go of his faith. Even when he didn't understand, even when he was in pain, he kept trusting God. And in the end, God restored him with double what he lost. Look at Joseph. He was betrayed, falsely accused, thrown into prison. It seemed like his dream would never come to pass. But he kept believing. He kept doing the right thing. And at the right time, God took him from the prison to the palace in a single day. Look at Paul and Silas, locked in a prison, chained, beaten, falsely accused. Most people would have been discouraged, but at midnight, instead of complaining, they started praising God. They sang songs of worship. in the middle of their storm. And suddenly an earthquake shook the prison. Their chains fell off and the doors flew open. Their breakthrough came because of their faith in the storm. Maybe you're in a midnight hour right now. Maybe everything in you wants to give up. But can I encourage you? Don't stop believing. Your faith is unlocking your breakthrough. James 1:03-4 says, the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. That means the storm isn't here to defeat you. It's here to develop you. So what should you do in the middle of your storm? Keep trusting God. Don't let fear take over. Instead of saying, this storm is too big, declare, my God is bigger. Keep speaking faith. What you say in the storm matters. Speak victory over your situation. Say, I am coming out of this stronger, better, and more blessed than before. Keep praising. Praise confuses the enemy. When you worship in the middle of the storm, it releases God's power in your situation. The storm is not permanent. It has an expiration date. But your faith is the key that will bring you through. Stay in faith. Keep believing and watch how God turns your storm into a testimony of victory. Life can sometimes feel like a storm. Unexpected challenges, losses, and struggles that try to shake our faith. Maybe you've faced a financial setback, a broken relationship, a health crisis, or a disappointment that left you wondering if things will ever get better. But here's the good news. God will restore what the storm tried to take. What looks like a loss is not the end of your story. God sees what you've been through, and He has a plan to bring restoration, healing, and blessings beyond what you've lost. Joel 2:25 says, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. That means God doesn't just bring you out of the storm. He restores what the storm tried to take. He doesn't leave you empty-handed. He brings back what was lost, and He does it in a way that's greater than before. Think about Job. He lost everything, his health, his wealth, even his children. It seemed like the storm had taken everything from him. But Job didn't give up. Even in his pain, he kept his faith. And in the end, God restored him with twice as much as he had before. What looked like permanent loss was only temporary. God turned his mourning into joy, his brokenness into blessing. Look at Joseph. His own brothers betrayed him. He was falsely accused, thrown into prison, and forgotten for years. But even in the middle of his storm, Joseph stayed faithful. He didn't let the injustice make him bitter. And at the right time, God restored him, elevating him to second in command over all of Egypt. The very ones who betrayed him had to come back to him for help. God took what the enemy meant for harm and turned it for good. Maybe you feel like Job, like Joseph, like you've lost something, like people have wronged you, like the storm has taken too much. But God is a God of restoration. He sees your tears, He hears your prayers, and He is working behind the scenes. Isaiah 61:7 says, instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion. Instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. That means God doesn't just give you back what you lost, He gives you more. Think about David. At one point, his enemies raided his camp, took his family, his possessions, everything he had. His own men turned against him. It seemed like all was lost. But David didn't sit in defeat. He sought God. And God told him, pursue, for you shall surely recover all. David went after what was stolen, and not only did he get everything back, but he came out with more than he had before. That's the kind of restoration God has for you. The storm is not where your story ends. What the enemy tried to steal, your peace, your joy, your health, your dreams, God is about to restore. So what should you do while you're waiting for restoration? Keep believing. The enemy wants you to give up, but your faith is the key to your breakthrough. Say, God, I trust you. I know you are restoring what was lost. Stay in peace. The storm may have taken something, but don't let it take your joy. Praise God, even before you see the restoration. Expect more. God doesn't just bring back what you lost, He multiplies it. Believe that your best days are still ahead. No storm is too strong to stop God's plan for your life. What you've lost is not permanent. God is faithful, and He will restore everything the storm tried to take. pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Every battle you face has a purpose. The enemy wouldn't be fighting you so hard if there wasn't something great in your future. The setbacks, the struggles, the disappointments, these aren't the end of your story. God is preparing you for something greater. Your victory will be greater than the battle. When you're in the middle of the fight, it's easy to wonder if you'll ever see the other side. The financial pressure, the health challenge, the broken relationship, it can feel like too much to handle. But remember, God never allows a battle unless He has already lined up a victory. The very thing that looks like it's holding you back is actually setting you up for a greater breakthrough. Think about David. When he stood before Goliath, the odds were against him. A young shepherd boy, no armor, no experience in battle, just a slingshot and 5 stones. But David wasn't intimidated. He knew the battle wasn't his, it was the Lord's. He stepped out in faith, and with 1 stone, he took down the giant. But here's the amazing part. That victory wasn't just about Goliath. That battle positioned David for the throne. His victory was greater than the battle. Look at Joseph. He was betrayed, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. For years, it seemed like every battle he faced was pushing him further from his destiny. But what Joseph didn't realize was that every hardship was part of God's divine setup. When the time was right, in one day, God elevated him from the prison to the palace. His victory wasn't just about being free. It was about ruling a nation, saving millions, and fulfilling God's plan. Maybe you're facing a battle right now. Maybe you feel like you're stuck, like the opposition is too strong. But can I encourage you? God is not just going to bring you through. He's going to bring you out stronger, better, and more blessed than before. 2 Corinthians 4:17 says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." That means the battle may be tough, but the reward will be greater. Think about Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his health, even his family. He could have given up, but he chose to trust God. And in the end, God restored him with twice as much as he had before. Job's victory was far greater than the battle he endured. Look at Paul and Silas. They were beaten, chained, and thrown into prison for preaching the gospel. Most people would have been discouraged, but at midnight, instead of complaining, they started praising. And suddenly there was an earthquake. The prison doors flew open, their chains fell off, and not only were they set free, but their jailer and his whole family came to Christ. Their victory wasn't just about their freedom, it was about bringing salvation to others. What's my point? God never allows a battle unless He has a greater victory in store. What looks like a setback is really a setup. What seems like an unfair attack is really a platform for God to show His power in your life. So what should you do in the middle of the battle? Keep your faith strong. The enemy wants you to quit, but the victory is on the other side of your endurance. Speak victory, not defeat. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," declare, "I am more than a conqueror. I know God is fighting for me." Praise in advance. Just like Paul and Silas, don't wait until you see the victory. Start thanking God now and watch how He turns things around. The battle may be intense, but remember this: the greater the struggle, the greater the breakthrough. You're not just coming out of this, you're coming out promoted, stronger, blessed, and victorious. What the enemy meant for harm, God is about to turn for good. Get ready. Your victory will be greater than the battle.